What you're about to listen to is a Bry-Fy production.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Bry-Fy podcast. I'm your host, Bry-Fy, your comics guy, and I want to thank you guys again for joining me here on the Bry-Fy podcast for the month of October, aka Podtober, where this year, instead of doing a podcast a day and destroy my voice completely and ruining my relationships and work life and everything else that matters to me, this time around, we're only doing 4 episodes, like normal, one a week. But now they all have a theme. And this year's theme is we're going with Tim Sale and Jeff Loeb's Color series with Marvel. Last week we talked about Hulk Gray and how, while yes, I did enjoy that it was a Hulk story, a Hulk story that I enjoyed. That's what I meant to say. My words are backwards sometimes. But it still was my least favorite of the 4 books that came out. And that's no offense to anyone who enjoys the book, anyone who enjoys Hulk. It just, I don't know if I related to the other characters better or if the story I found better. I don't know. If there was just something there that kind of, not rubbed me the wrong way, but just didn't speak to me how I thought it would. So this week, we are actually looking at the third favorite. Man, see, if I say my third favorite instead of like my third least favorite, whatever. This week, though, we're looking at Captain America White, which takes place, I think, in 1945 in the story when Bucky joins Captain America and they start rampaging through Europe, France in this instance. But we'll get more into that story later, and it is different from Hulk, and we'll get to why that's different. But that's not why you guys came here, right? Well, it might be. Some of you might actually stick around to the comic book reviews, which I really enjoy and really appreciate. But up first, we're going to talk some nifty nerd news. We'll also have another new podcast commercial, which I've been trying to throw in some more. I've been able to join a group on Twitter. It's a lot of proactive podcasters, really nice people, and it's not just some giant retweet machine. Like there was another group that I had joined and kind of helped start, or on Twitter I wanted to try start, and it really just kind of turned into like a retweet machine. Like that's all people would post in there is just, hey, new episode, retweet. And you see that a lot on Facebook pages that are dedicated to podcasts in like different areas. They really just turn into retweet machines. And every now and then you get someone asking kind of like a legitimate question. But that's not what I want from a community. I don't want to just say, put something out there and then just retweet it. I wanted something more. And I was invited by my friend Nerdy Bitches to join this new podcast group where there's a lot more interaction. There's a lot more questions. There's a lot more answering. I'm learning some new things with podcasting, even though I've been doing it for 6 years, because things change and you have to grow and adapt with the internet, with how everything's working. And I'm trying to do that. And so I found some pretty cool new software and new techniques that hopefully I can implement soon, next year or whatever, to really grow the podcast, make it even better, and get some more listeners. And, hey, Patreon's a thing. Hey, we got a new Patreon. I don't know if I talked about it last week, but we do have a new Patreon subscriber, a member of the Bry-Fighter Squadron. His name's Ryan. He joined up. It's simple to do. It's super easy. You head over to patreon.com/Bry-Fy podcast. And for as little as $1 a month, you can sign up for the Bry-Fire Squadron. You get bonus episodes each week where I'm getting a little more personal, talking about like behind the scenes stuff with the Bry-Fy podcast, more stuff in my life. And so if that's something that you're interested in and want to know more about, like me and my wife and our nerd stuff that we like to just mess around with, my son, how funny he is, dealing with his autism and stuff like that. We talk about all that kind of stuff. I talk about all that kind of stuff. So if that's something that might interest you and you might think would be pretty interesting, head over, sign up for it, and give it a try. I mean, $1 for a month. You don't like it, you can cancel at any time. But At least give me the dollar. Like, help me out, man. I'm trying to get new equipment. Anyway, that's going to be it for the intros. Let's get into the Nifty Nerd. All right, guys. Up first in the Nifty Nerd news, I do want to bring attention to what's happening on the CW or over with DC's TV universe. They're starting to do Crisis on an Infinite Earths, which if you're not familiar with DC Comics, which I wasn't a huge, I'm not a big DC reader, and anyone who's been listening to the podcast knows I'm not a huge DC reader, but I do like a lot of DC Comics, and I like a lot of their characters. I just, I pay for Marvel Unlimited, and I don't have enough money to pay for DC Universe, so there you go. That's just how it works. Unlimited came first. But with Crisis on Infinite Earths, it's basically like, we've talked about on my podcast, Marvel's Secret Wars, where it's a bunch of different multiverses coming together, real big bad or something that they're trying to figure out, and it's DC's version of that. I think DC's came first, honestly, in the comics, if I'm not mistaken. Then Marvel did Secret Wars. But so all these different things are coming together, and different characters from different universes, like so Batman from this universe, Batman from this, all coming together. And that's happening on the CW, like just with Arrow, Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, Black Lightning, like all those stuff. Supergirl, another one. But what's been really crazy about this in Crisis on Infinite Earths is the people that they're bringing back from their old stuff, like from Smallville, like what's his name? I can't even remember his name. That plays Superman, Lois. Like they're bringing back characters from there. There's been another picture that was shared on Twitter showing Wayne Tech CEO Bruce Wayne to marry Selena Kyle, and it's a picture of Michael fucking Keaton, dude. So Michael Keaton's Batman is showing up in Crisis on Infinite Earths, and that's insane to me, dude. Like, can we see? What if we saw George Clooney's version, or what if Arnold Schwarzenegger comes back to be Mr. Freeze, like. Just seeing this stuff and seeing the cool little and I don't know if they're big roles or anything. They just seem to be a lot of Easter eggs that are happening. That could be freaking awesome though. It's limitless what they could do, and a lot of people are signing on to do this. They're also doing is it Kingdom Comes version of Superman? Who knows? Maybe they'll even do what was the one where he lands in Soviet Russia? Red Sun? What if we get that version of Superman? It's just insane what they're doing to me over there, and I think it's crazy. And so I feel like it's what's going to pull me into the DC TV universe, because Arrow didn't do it for me. Flash kind of did it for me. Supergirl didn't really do it for me either, although the episode, I didn't start watching from the beginning. I watched the Kevin Smith episodes, which were good, but I was just kind of there's just a lot to go catch up on. And I really didn't want to do that because I'm lazy and because I don't have a lot of free time, because I'm a terrible person. But it sounds cool and it sounds interesting, and I think it's something that we should all check out. I definitely have my eye on it, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen. I can't wait to see what's going to come out of all this. Up next in the Nifty Nerd News, though, if I go to my emails and pull up. I don't have a lot of Nifty Nerd News this week, guys, so forgive me. We've talked about Netflix Cowboy Bebop series or movie. I can't remember if it was a series or a movie that was going to happen. But one of the big things that we didn't know, and who was going to be this character, was Ein, the dog. They have this adorable corgi that's a part of the team, is in the ship. Apparently he's super smart, and I don't know if he's a real dog or AI now. I need to go back and watch Cowboy Bebop because I haven't done that. But we finally get the live action casting of Ein, which is really awesome, really cool. Netflix did it on a tweet with a little video, which was really cute. It's corgi vision. So you follow the camera around, it's at foot level, and it's hopping, going through stairs. And then you see Stephen Young, who's going to be playing Spike. I forget who else you see. Elena Satan, Elena Satine as Julia. God, I can't even remember who everyone else is going to be in this movie, and I don't have a list right in front of me of who plays who. But it's kind of cool, man. Getting a live action dog, getting a live action people, getting a live action Cowboy Bebop, which arguably was a top anime in America for a very long time. I think everyone in my age group are within 5 years, I would say, older than, like, maybe even 10 years older than me. Well, anyone who's a fan of anime that's older than me and maybe 5 years younger than me, which I'm 30. So, anyone from 40 to 25 knows what Cowboy Bebop is, really digs Cowboy. And, like, when you hear that intro, like the jazz music and everything, like, you know what you're getting. Like, you know what's coming. So it's really badass, really cool. And getting to see that come live action, I don't think anyone's complaining. I don't think anyone's like, oh, we don't need it. At least I haven't seen a lot of negative stuff. And especially in today's day and age where you see tons of negative news and negative reviews and just negativity, it's really awesome to see people seem to be pretty damn optimistic about this. So I'm really excited and really stoked to see what happens. Up next, though, we are talking about what they're doing over in Titans on DC Universe, or DCU, whatever the hell it's called, which is their streaming service. Of course, Titans kind of made a pretty big splash with its season 1. And, well, I say big splash. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, there was a lot of hit or miss there with how Starfire looked at first before, like, anyone ever got to watch the episodes. Basically everyone looked really weird. A lot of people thought it was, like, way too edgy for, like, what we get. And I think a lot of it comes from, we're definitely comparing it to the Teen Titans animated show that we all fell in love with. And I'm not talking about Teen Titans Go, which is still a good show. I still like it a lot. I think people who don't like it need to give it a chance because it definitely throws in way more Easter eggs and a lot more fun. But, we really fell in love with that first Teen Titans animated show. It was just awesome. It felt perfect. It had the right amount of goofiness with seriousness, and the animation was really great. I think it was kind of Bruce Timm-ish, if I'm not mistaken. Like, it just, big bold lines, not simplistic bodies, but not like overly detailed, but enough detail to really bring these characters to life and feel good. You got immersed in this world. So I was a big fan of that. But anyway, talking about Titans and what they're doing here recently, at the end of season 2, something really drastic happens with one of the characters. Jason Todd, who plays Robin, who I believe is like a crime scene detective or something like that. And I haven't really watched the show. I know he's involved with law enforcement, and he is also Robin. At this point, though, at the end of the season, something bad could possibly happen to him, and they're doing something really cool. They're letting the fans vote what happens to Jason Todd. Do we save him? Like, does whatever happens to him not kill him, or does whatever happens to him kill him? And what's really cool about this, like, other than like, hey, let the fans vote, and that's cool, is this is something that they did in the comic books way back when. Joker had captured Jason Todd. Yeah, I think it was Jason Todd, yeah. And his Robin, and had him tied up and was beating him with like a crowbar. Like, it's really fucking brutal, guys. And DC Comics gave the fans a chance to vote. What happened? Does Jason Todd survive? Like, Batman save him and he survives? Or does Robin die? And back then, people were pretty fucking brutal, man. They wanted Robin to die. And so they kill Robin in the comic books. And that's a huge thing. And then Jason Todd later on becomes the Red Hood, becomes like this crazy vigilante who's on the verge of being a real villain, but trying to be a hero. Like, it's some really cool stuff, really crazy things. And that would be really badass if they do that in Titans as well. And it's just so crazy to see these shows now do these things. Like, the things that you see in comics go off the wall crazy, and people are 100% still behind it. Like, you don't lose people when you do shit like this, which is amazing to me, because I feel like, back in the day, especially like you think about, like, I think about the old Spider-Man movies when I think about this as back in the day. But you always saw kind of like the same villain. You saw Green Goblin. Like, Green Goblin had to show up. You always saw Joker with Batman are like references to Joker. And it's like these comic book movies, these comic book series seem kind of scared to push the boundary or to branch off into deep dives of comic book lore, because they felt, I feel like they felt like that we felt like. No, that's a lot of feeling, guys. I'm in my feelings right now, and I'm in your feelings. But I believe that maybe they thought we weren't going to get the deep dives. We weren't going to accept them or think, wow, that's way too ridiculous. It's way more believable that a billionaire would just become his own vigilante than hire someone, or do stuff with his money. But I don't know. It's crazy. It's cool. I'm really excited. I'm really stoked to see what happens with that. Anyway, that's really it for the nifty nerd news that I have, guys. We're going to get into the comic book review here shortly, but before we do, I do want to say thank you for everyone who's been sticking around. Thank you for new listeners who have been enjoying the podcast and signing up for Patreons, retweets. I've gotten a huge amount of followers on Twitter here recently, which has been amazing. It really inflates my ego. It makes me feel like I'm on to something here. A lot of them are fellow podcasts, and I want to thank you guys for just listening into the show, listening to what I'm about, and hopefully enjoying yourself. Because I enjoy doing this. I enjoy talking. I enjoy having a lot of fun with it. And I just want to talk comic book, guys. I just want to talk comics. Oh, what was also really cool today, speaking of like community and all that stuff, where I work at, there's people who we all live kind of in the same town. I had a guy come up to me today because, everyone knows my name there. My last name is very unique. It's Guanajuato. And I don't know anyone else other than family members who have the last name Guanajuato. And so guy comes up to me, he's like, hey, you're Brian, right? And I was like, yeah, I'm Brian. He goes, you're the dude started like the Bay City Nerd Collective, because I live in a town called Bay City. And I was like, yeah, that's me. And he's like, hey, man, I'm a part of the group. And then we started chatting. We were talking about Warhammer and like tabletop gaming and like how far we have to drive because there's nothing here in Bay City. And then he talked about like a group of guys that work out where we work, that all play and they get together. They're all in the same shift. And then it made me sad because I'm on like the complete opposite shift of them. So when they're not working, I'm working, or like if they're on days, I'm on nights. So it freaking sucks. Like there's no way I could play with them because of just how the schedule is, and it hurts my feelings, man. But it was really cool getting to meet them and get to say hi and nerd out for a little bit. Actually, I forgot what I was doing at work, nerding out, and I had to like go back and restart the process of what I was doing. It was stupid. It was fun though, and so I just wanted to share that moment. It's fun. It's fun interacting with the community, interacting with people who are aware of you. Like people know about my podcast at work, and some people actually listen to it. And it makes me happy, like, because then we kind of talk about it, or we mention it to each other, like, the next day and stuff. And I've really enjoyed that, and it's been a blast for me. But anyway, sorry, long-winded there. Let's move on to the comic book that I wanted to review for this week of Podtober, and that's Captain America White. Oh, but first, a word from a podcast.
Hey, this is Ken M.
Padawan J.
Coach Duffy.
From the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour podcast. Every week, the ODPH is talking sports, movies, TV, comics, and more. It's always a parlay of topics on each episode. You can find the ODPH on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, and wherever you find great podcasts, such as the one you're listening to right now. Don't forget to check out OchoDuroParlayHour.com, where you can find the links to all of the ODPH social media accounts, links to the bands whose music you hear each week on the show, hashtag 607 podcast info, and parlay points, our companion blog section of the show. Thanks for listening to the ODPH. Now get back to your regularly scheduled podcast.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Bry-Fy podcast. Of course, once again, I'm Bry-Fy, your comics guy, and we are talking comics this week. We are talking Captain America White by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. This is actually the newest, or the most recent version of their color series that they've done with Marvel. They've only done 4. I kind of want them to do more now and tackle other characters, but it follows Captain America in his early days of fighting alongside Bucky Barnes, his teammate, who eventually becomes the Winter Soldier and eventually, goes from bad to good. But we're not talking about that. Like this issue doesn't talk about this or that happening, and I don't know if that happened by the time Captain America White came out. Because if I'm not mistaken, Captain America White came out maybe 2006. It says here on the app, doesn't it? Oh no, is that when? Publication details. Oh, this came out in 2015. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure, unless Winter Soldier is way more recent than I think, which is crazy because I pride myself on knowing these things, and yet I don't. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go over to Google real quick. We're going to take a small detour. And when was the Winter Soldier created? Let's see. Bucky Barnes, now known in print and on screen as the Winter Soldier. I don't want to know all that. I just want to know when he became the Winter Soldier. That's all I want to know. And it's so difficult. Oh, sorry, my phone got way too close. Okay, so Bucky Barnes as Winter Soldier. This Captain America Volume 5, issue number 11, as early as November 2005. So, yeah, it's been a while. So I just learned, Winter Soldier has been a thing since, or before Captain America White came out, but in this story of Captain America White, Captain America doesn't know that Bucky eventually becomes the Winter Soldier, and he talks about kind of, the regret of having Bucky fight alongside of him during World War II, which, I mean, realistically, so if you go by Marvel Cinematic Universe, you know Bucky is like the same age as Steve Rogers. He's buffier and buffier. He's buffier. He's more vampire slayer. No. Bigger, buffer than Steve until Steve, gets cheat codes. He does up, down, left, right, BA. Inject myself with crazy super soldier serum. But in the comics, that's not the case. Steve Rogers is an older man, and Bucky is kind of like an orphan, like a kid. And in the comics, it's literally a grown-ass man fighting alongside a kid, killing Nazis, which is probably the most badass thing you could have done back in World War II, especially with an actually World War II going on, and you're trying to inspire people and get people like, yeah, let's beat the shit out of them Nazis. Showing a kid kicking ass, and it breeds the next generation of soldiers. It's propaganda. Let's really get political with it. No, but anyway, it's kind of interesting reading this story and seeing Steve Rogers actually kind of regret and trying to keep Bucky from joining fights and from being a part of what's happening, and like the shit. Because let's face it, this is the shit, man. And of course, it doesn't work. Bucky gets involved, and eventually their adventures lead them to Paris, France, occupied France, where Nazi Germany has pretty much taken completely over. The Red Skull is there, and they're trying to get to the bottom of what's going on, why is he there, and you just have Captain America reliving these moments, monologuing, and just kind of feeling really regretful. Like, it's sad. Like, a lot of these stories are very sad in a way. And, I guess when you're looking back on these moments and remembering someone who you've lost, the only thing that you can feel is sadness, Not to say there aren't fun moments in these issues, because there are a lot of funny moments with, like, the Howling Commandos. You get to see, like, young Nick Fury, which people who don't read the comics, Nick Fury is white in the comics and Samuel L. Jackson in the movies. And the Ultimate Universe is Samuel L. Jackson, too. Because it's funny. Side note, if you didn't know, when they did Nick Fury for the Ultimate Universe, which was like a different universe than the main 616 comic universe, they wanted a cooler Nick Fury, and they based it off of Samuel L. Jackson. Well, turns out Samuel L. Jackson thought that was fucking badass. So when then they approached him to do the Avengers movies, and he was like, fuck yeah, motherfucker. Because, he says that a lot. That's just his thing. But anyway, backtrack. Howling Commandos, Nick Fury, everything. a lot of people didn't believe in Steve Rogers. You know, they thought he was just some kind of propaganda machine, some crazy dude. And really this mission, like one of their first missions together with the Howling Commandos, is him proving himself and Bucky proving himself that they're capable fighters in a war, you know, with actual guns. This isn't just punchy dudes in masks. This is punchy dudes with guns and real bullets and explosions and tanks. And Captain America's kicking friggin' ass, man. He's laying it down. The story really comes to a head when Red Skull kidnaps Bucky. Like, Bucky decides, hey, I'm gonna really prove to Captain America, like, I can hold my own. I ain't some kid. I'm a tough kid. I'm from New York. I'm a New Yorker. I cross the street wherever I want. And I think I'm getting a little Boston-y there. But anyway, he goes off to try to take on the Red Skull all on his own. Captain America's kind of pissed and scared because, you know, Bucky's a kid. It's his responsibility, so he's trying to hurry up and go do that. Howling Commandos are heading over to a museum with friendly Batroc the Leaper, or I don't know if it's Batroc. I know it's the guy called the Leaper who was a villain later on. But in this, he's portrayed as another hero, a freedom fighter in France who's part of like a carnival or like these crazy gymnast people. Anyway, turns out he double crosses the Howling Commandos thinking he's going to save his people. Nazis, you know, they're kind of non-discriminatory in their discrimination as they just hate everyone who's not them. So I'm going to kill them anyway. And he's like, no, why did I betray my own people only to be betrayed myself? How did I not see this coming? And then he dives in front of a bullet and dies because comics. And I guess his son or someone else takes on the man. I don't know where it goes from there, and the story doesn't really talk about it, so we're not going to talk about it, even though we just spent a lot of time talking about it. Oh, yeah, Captain America kisses a gypsy. That's a thing. And she's like the ringleader of like the ring people, circus people, ring people, circus people. And so, you know, all that crazy crap's going on, but that doesn't matter because Captain America is going to the Eiffel Tower where Bucky Barnes is, who's being held hostage by the Red Skull. He's tied up to a chair. There's dynamite everywhere. Red Skull's going full evil megalomaniac monologue extraordinaire right here. It's definitely, I talked about earlier in the episode, like Jason Todd being tied up by the Joker, and like this literally, except without the crowbar, Red Skull's beating the shit out of freaking Bucky Barnes, and like it's up to Captain America to save him. But in this instance, people don't get to vote, and Bucky doesn't die. And like I've mentioned before, the people who the characters these comics are about, so like Hulk, Bruce Banner, Captain America, Matt Murdock with Daredevil, and Peter Parker with Spider-Man. And the stories themselves, they don't show the deaths of the character, or the story that's happening is not the death story of that character. It's just them remembering moments and reflecting on those moments and kind of trying to come to terms with the loss of them. But so this story doesn't result in Bucky's death. You know, things happen. Captain America saves the day, beats the hell out of the Red Skull, and saves Bucky, you know, and saves the girl and all the good stuff and all the hero things. But because, like, through this story, he finds solace in the loss of his friend who wanted to be there, who wanted to be a part of it. And Captain America realizes that, you know, he was going to, like, regardless of what he did, Bucky was going to find a way. Bucky was going to be badass. And, you know, this shit happens, you know. Well, not like, oh, it happens. Kids just go to war. Well, it kind of does now. But anyway, so it's a good story. I really enjoy it. It's definitely different. Like how the Hulk is different and he's talking to a psychiatrist. Captain America White is different in that he's not talking about a lover. He's talking about a loved one, but not so much a lover. Even though there is kind of a lover in there with the gypsy woman that he kisses. But that's like a short moment and just some, you know, little piddle-paddle flirtiness, you know, little junior high flirtation. Well, I can't say that now because like I feel like junior high kids like have babies now. It's crazy. What kind of world are we in? You know, just like that harmless, like puppy love type stuff, man. And so I dig it though. Like I think, and it could be because of the movies. I don't know why, but I like Captain America better. But I've always kind of like growing up, I've always been a fan of World War II stories, that era, that like style, especially like I was a huge fan of like Call of Duties, Battlefield, and all like the World War II games like that. Because I was a kid and guns and boom, 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 and kids want to go to war and the propaganda machine works again. But here I am, fat, lazy, well, overweight, lazy, and definitely not going to war anytime soon because I'm scared of shit. Anyway, as far as the rating goes for Captain America White, I definitely put it out of the 4 comics. I put it ranked number 3. Give it another positively charged book. Love the artwork in it. Tim Sale's art is really cool. It's definitely different than anything you've seen, but I love the style of it, especially with the colors that come in on it. It's just really cool. It's really interesting. And the story is interesting. Like, the story keeps your attention. Like, you follow a mission. You get to meet some really cool characters and see some really fun dialogue between them all. And you get to hear Captain America be not peppy, not like super optimistic. You know, he's very, you can tell it's eating at him. You know, the loss of his best friend really tears at him. And that's kind of a big thing and kind of really meant something to me in this story, more so than Hulk and his love for Betty Brant and talking to a psychiatrist. Like, this one hit me a little bit harder, or I wouldn't say hit me hard, but made me more interested. And so that's why I think I dug it a little bit more. But anyway, that's it for the comic book review this week. I want to thank you guys for all being a part of it and joining in on the fun. And hopefully you guys read along, maybe have your own thoughts. Maybe I'm wrong. You know, tell me that I'm wrong in my thoughts. Tell me my opinions are wrong and how much better yours are, because I would love to hear that. And you can always do that over on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. Everything is at Bry-Fy Podcast. That's Bryfy Podcast. Hell, I have an email, Bry-Fy Podcast at hotmail.com. Love to hear from you. Love to interact with you guys. And I also have YouTube, where hopefully you'll start seeing these episodes on now. I think I missed out on last week because I forgot to check the box. And, well, I guess I can just delete the episode and re-upload it with the box. So then you'll see it up there. So maybe that's what I'll do. But that's going to be it. And next week we are talking about... I'm going to keep it a secret. I'm going to let number 2 and number 1 be a secret, even though I think I've already said it like multiple times. I have already said it multiple times. But this episode, I'm banking on you being too lazy to go back and listen. I'm not going to tell you. So you can decide which one you think is going to be number 2 and which one's going to be number 1. And if you're right, you get a no prize. The famous Marvel no prize. Yay! Anyway, guys, that's it for this week. Bry-Fy. That was really weird. Let me try again. Bry-Fy out. No, that's still really weird. Bry-Fy. Fuck me.